get it all set up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Liz Torres, and I am here with the Community Language Cooperative, and we are here to help create a space for language justice. What that means is that we want to create a space where everyone can participate and engage in the language of their heart. We will use simultaneous interpretation to create this space. When I finish saying this in Spanish, we will turn on the interpretation and you will see a globe icon that says interpretation. If you are not fully bilingual, we ask that you select your language. When you select your preferred language, you can check the mute to mute the original audio. In that way, you do not hear both languages at the same time. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Liz Torres. Estoy aquí con la Cooperativa Comunitaria de Idiomas y estamos aquí para crear un espacio de justicia del idioma. Lo que esto significa es que queremos crear un espacio en donde todos podamos participar y comunicarnos en el idioma de nuestros corazones. Usaremos interpretación simultánea para crear este espacio. Cuando termine de decir esto en español, activaremos la interpretación y se verá como un icono de globo terráqueo que dice interpretación. Si usted no es completamente bilingüe, le pedimos que seleccione su idioma preferido. Cuando seleccione el idioma de su preferencia, puede hacerle clic en silenciar el audio original para que no escuche los dos idiomas al mismo tiempo. Go ahead, ladies and gentlemen.
You should see the globe now that you can select your language.
Thank you. And so now I can officially welcome you all to the Outdoor Adventure and Alternative Sports Master Plan final public meeting. We're really excited to have you all. Thank you for those that have attended all the meetings thus far. And thank you to those that it's your first time and you're excited to hear what we have come up with. I am Molly Lanphier. I'm a senior parks planner in Denver Parks and Recreation. And let's go ahead to the next slide and kick us off. So I am going to hand this off tonight to Happy Haynes, the Executive Director of Denver Parks and Recreation, to do a land acknowledgement and introduction.
Wonderful. Thank you, Molly, and welcome to everyone. This is an exciting evening. We'd like to start tonight's celebration by reading a land acknowledgement. And we want to start by saying thank you to the Denver City Council and the Denver American Indian Commission for creating this acknowledgement and allowing us to use it. Denver Parks and Recreation honors and acknowledges that the land on which we reside is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. We honor elders, past, present, and future, and those who have stewarded this land throughout generations. We also recognize that government, academic, and cultural institutions were founded upon and continue to enact exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression and inequities and recognize the current and future contributions of Indigenous communities in Denver. Let us all continue to be good stewards of the land and honor our past, both today and into the future. Thank you. This is the final public meeting for the Outdoor Adventure and Alternative Sports Master Plan, and we're so excited to have all of you here tonight. Over the past year, more than 6,400 Denverites have participated in our public meetings, in surveys, and other outreach opportunities. We thank you for sharing your thoughts about how to increase adventure and your participation in adventure in Denver. The recommendations for achieving the plan's goals are designed to be implemented over the next 20 years. We hope that you'll stay active in participating in planning efforts in your neighborhood, as we hope to bring more outdoor adventure activities to both neighborhood parks as well as regional parks, and certainly in our mountain parks throughout all of that time. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the members of the Technical Advisory Committee and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for their participation in this plan, and you'll see their names in just a few moments. The members have raised important questions, offered valuable insight, and helped DPR to develop recommendations that will make outdoor adventure more exciting for all Denverites in our urban parks as well as in our mountain parks. Additionally, I'd like to thank our fantastic consultant project team led by Meredith Winskowski and Livable City Studio, and supported by Watson Wenk Associates, Stan Tech, and Barry Dunn. And to all of the Denver Parks and Recreation planning team and staff, marketing and comms team, for all the efforts to make sure that we had all of your voices as a part of this effort. So this is a celebration, and we're celebrating the end of the important first step, which is this master plan, a journey to more and better adventure in Denver and beyond. So let's go make that happen. And I'll turn it back over to Molly.
Thanks so much, Happy. I really appreciate it. So some of us you've seen already. This is kind of our project team that has shepherded this master plan through the process. We have worked across the department, so with our recreation colleagues, headed by John Martinez and Leslie Pickard, as well as I'm a planner, as well as Stacy West is also a planner who you have seen on previous meetings if you've been with us throughout the whole process. Laura Morales is our wonderful person who has sent on all our emails telling you to attend tonight, but does so much more behind the scenes in terms of outreach and engagement, and has really made this master plan a success. And as Happy mentioned, our consultant team was led by Meredith Winskowski from Livable Cities. Daryl Watson from Watson Wenk will talk to us about community engagement. He spearheaded that in a very successful way. And then Carl Burkhart with Stantec did a lot of mapping for us throughout the process. And Jason Genk did our kind of needs analysis, as well as brought us some examples of what we should be looking at for our peer cities. So that was our team. Next slide, please. So tonight, we're going to try and keep this short and sweet and to the point. We want to go over what we heard from the public and summarize that again. Some of this will be kind of a repeat, again, if you've been here throughout the process, but a lot of it is new, and we have really worked hard to summarize this in a meaningful way, so we have implementable goals going forward. And then we'll revisit that plan, purpose, vision, framework. And then here we'll really get into the meat of the plan and the meat of our recommendations. So what we mean by outdoor adventure and what we are now prioritizing for our neighborhood parks, as well as go over what's come out of this is a hub concept. We'll define that. We're really looking forward to talking to you, and hopefully you'll be as excited as we are about our signature projects that are coming out of this plan, both in terms of the near term and the long term. This is a 20-year plan. So some of this is looking at 20 years, but some of this is already happening, which we're really excited to talk to you about. And then to kind of also talk about additional priorities. So things that didn't fit in any of those other buckets, but that we're still excited about and have made the plan. And then to talk about next steps, because this isn't the last you'll hear from us about this. So, right. And feedback opportunities. So now I'm going to go through, we don't just want to be talking at you the whole time. We hope that you will use the chat function on the side and that you'll speak up. It is being recorded. It will be available for presentation on our website after And so how you interact is you go to the chat button on the very bottom of your screen, and you can always chat us or the community at large to see, and we can kind of respond to that. So go ahead. And then you can ask, we're going to save question and answers for the ends, but you can do there should be a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, like is shown in the presentation. And we will be able to see, as the project team, your questions and answers. You can also see it, so you can upvote if you have the same question, or if you want to hear our answer, please go ahead and do a thumbs up to it. At the end, we'll take time and try and get to all the questions or comments that we can. But the question and answer one is really for questions, and then the side is really for comments, the chat function. We're also going to be doing some live polls. We want to be sure you're out there and interacting with us as much as possible. So we'll share some polls during the presentation that will automatically appear on the screen, and then we'll tally those and share the results. If you have any questions that you don't want to type out and want to ask during that question and answer period, that's completely fine. We encourage that, in fact. So just go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll try and call on you as time allows. But obviously, we want this to be an interactive presentation. So please chat questions. We want to hear what you have to say about what we've come up with.
Molly, this is Happy. Before we start in the meeting, can I take a moment to acknowledge a couple of people? We're really excited to have them on the meeting with us tonight. Councilwoman Kendra Black is in the webinar. Councilwoman, we're so excited about your interest in this and your support of parks in general. We have several members of our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board that I mentioned earlier. Frank Rowe is on, Florence Navarro, and Meredith Levy, all members of our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. So just wanted to acknowledge their presence and say thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, thanks, Happy, for pointing that out. I really appreciate it. And obviously, there's a whole big team that made this happen. So thank you. As part of that team, I will turn it over to Daryl Watson, who's kind of gonna go launch our community engagement summary and our poll questions. Daryl?
Thank you so much, Molly, and thank you so much, Happy, for the great introduction and the kickoff of tonight's meeting. And thanks to everyone who's on the call. So we want to shake it up and get folks involved in our discussion tonight. So we would love to ask each member that's on the call to identify or to highlight, select what area of Denver do you live in. Select the one that best represents where you live. And we'll give about a minute or two for folks participating on the call to list what area of Denver do they live in, and to select the one that best represents where you live. So you can start voting now.
Yep, you should be seeing, I'm seeing some votes come in. We just have a few more, so get your last votes in. This is the easy question. Okay, and I think we've got them all. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. Daryl, are you able to see those?
I can see those. We have a lot of folks from the northwest side. I think southeast comes in. So we have folks from all across the city. No one selected north central, but those lines are very close. So thank you all for coming out from across the city and participating in tonight's last meeting of this outreach process for the Outdoor Adventures Alternative Sports. But there will be, as Molly shared, plenty of opportunities throughout the next several months and years for you to continue being engaged. We wanted to share a little bit at a high level, kind of the public engagement efforts. So when we say 6,468 diverse, unique voices, it was an intentional process. We wanted, in collaboration with Denver Parks and Rec, as with their focus of equity, we wanted to ensure that we had lots of participation from folks across the city. Our first public meeting, we had 95 participants. As you can see, online survey, 2,887 folks for the first survey. The second survey, which is almost unheard of, to have a second survey that outperforms the first, but we did with this plan, or I should say you did with this plan, over 3,331 participants. We also were intentional about reaching out to different communities, the Mayor's Youth Commission, the Westwood Family Nature Club, as well as the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, some of the experts and folks who dive into these discussions on a daily basis. So thank you all. If some of you are on this call that participated and at this meeting, we do appreciate your input, and we hope you see your voice and your actions and your input in the outcomes for the Outdoor Adventures and Alternative Sports Master Plan. I wanted to stop for a moment, and I know that our Technical Advisory Committee members have been participating for well over a year. Many of these folks have been on each of these public meetings. They've been in several additional meetings. They've hosted meetings for individuals within their communities. And I wanted to stop for a second and snap and clap and just congratulate each and every member of our Technical Advisory Committee. I won't call each of their names out, but I wanted to share with this team and with the larger community the importance of why we had this role. The role of our Technical Advisory Committee was to guide the development of a strategic plan, as well as to help to get the word out about the process and share information about meetings and surveys with their constituent groups. At the outset of this process, we attempted to create a committee that represented diverse perspectives, experiences, and demographics, and geographic areas of Denver. I think we succeeded, and from the outpouring of input and engagement, I know from the outcomes, I hope that communities at large see their voices. Our Technical Advisory Committee met 5 times over a 9-month period, and they engaged in productive dialogue, describing their vision for outdoor adventure, sharing resources and insights, and serving as a test audience for the ideas that ultimately informed the final plan. Once again, thank you all for your input and involvement throughout this process, and I know each of you will continue being involved in the years to come. And we can advance to the next slide. So wanted to share a few public engagement key takeaways with the leaders on the call tonight. So Denver residents said that they know that Denver Parks and Rec offers many great programs and has fantastic facilities, but they also said that they don't always know what activities are scheduled and when. And that's important for folks with families planning their lives around what they're doing on a daily basis, and then their opportunities to recreate with Denver Parks and Rec. We heard clearly that our parks need to be safe and welcoming to all. And we understood that especially during COVID, the last 2.5 years, where we saw an increase in use of our park space for folks to retreat from all of the things that are going on in the world. Respondents stated that they would like to see more outdoor activities offered either at hubs, in our mountain parks, or in our neighborhood parks. Childcare, equipment, access, and transportation, especially to mountain parks, are seen as barriers to participation. And we specifically asked people with disabilities or different abilities to identify sports that they would like to participate in, as well as adaptations they might need. How can Denver Parks and Rec and our partners make it easier, more accessible with folks with different abilities to participate and to be celebrated in our parks and in our rec centers? Finally, we heard loud and clear from Southeast Denver that a new skate park in their area is badly needed. Trust me, we've had plenty of meetings, and thank you so much, Councilmember Black, for being on the call and continuing the ask and the call for that skate park.
Great, thanks, Daryl. Happy and Molly, great introductions, and thanks you all for being here tonight. So I'm just going to start with kind of going over the vision and the overarching objectives and some kind of key themes and how we've really organized this plan. So if you've joined the past public meetings, some of this will be familiar, but we have some also some new stuff tonight, just really, taking into account all the great feedback we've heard, and want to share a lot about how it shaped the plan and all the priorities that are coming out of it. So just a reminder, kind of around the vision for this plan. And I'm going to read this because I think it's really important. Denver Parks and Recreation will provide a variety of experiential outdoor adventure and alternative sports for families and people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds. Denverites will feel comfortable, safe, confident, and welcome to engage in activities that offer healthy and positive interactions with the natural world. So, you know, the vision for this plan is really to make people get outside, in outdoor adventure, try new things, but really making them feel safe and comfortable. So you'll hear a little bit more about that. But one of the big overarching objective is to enhance equitable access. And you'll see that thread again throughout all of the priorities and the recommendations that we'll share tonight. Some key themes have also emerged through this process about being flexible and adapting to trends. You know, COVID's changed a lot about the way we've operated in the past few years, and it will continue to change. And so it's important that this plan is flexible and can continue to adapt as well. We want to continue reinvesting in old infrastructure. While we also want to build new, we want to make sure we're reinvesting in what we have and continuing to improve that. We want to build outdoor adventure into everyday life, making it easy for people to participate in these activities. And also make sure we're providing a progressive continuum, meaning we have activities for those that are just trying out an activity for the first time and those that are maybe more experienced and need more challenging activities as well. So this plan is focused around these 4 focus areas, and this is what may be familiar to you all from the past if you've been engaged. And I'm not going to read all of this tonight, but rather kind of note the 4 big buckets, and really that there are recommendations and strategies within each one of these that are really go deep and very really extensive. And we're not going to be able to get to all of it tonight, but we're going to touch on some highlights for you. So these 4 focused areas, the first one is about increased participation. So this is really getting people increasing their access to outdoor adventure activities, programs, infrastructure, so that they can participate in a variety of outdoor experiences. The second focus area is around progressive and inclusive programming, making sure we're creating inclusive environments to engage youth and families and people of all ages and abilities, and thinking about their kind of levels of experience and their backgrounds as we're doing it, and make sure we're accommodating everyone. The third bucket is access and transportation. So that's improving access and transportation, not only to mountain parks, but also thinking about that in the urban environments as well. And the last area, communications and education. And this is really about expanding marketing and communications around outdoor adventure so that people know how to engage, also educates them in the process. This plan really goes really deep in the recommendations. You will hear some really big picture ideas, and you will hear some very detailed ideas that really are about kind of individuals getting out into and participating in outdoor adventure. And I want to just take a few minutes to explain kind of what we've heard and how we've gotten there, and where that this plan really has a very wide range of strategies so that we can get people into these activities. I'm going to go through several examples here, but first I want to just talk about Luca. So these are kind of users or personas that and are really reflective of what we have heard through this entire process. And I think it sheds a lot of light on where we have gotten. So Luca, who lives in the Westwood neighborhood, he's 12, multiracial, and he lives with his mother, grandparents, and siblings. And really what we've heard from somebody like Luca is he wants to try everything, but he doesn't have any gear. He wants to engage in activities with his friends, and he'd really like them kind of near his school so that they're really easily accessible to his everyday life. Would love to have more opportunities for water activities. goes to the rec center, between rec center and school, there's a lot of opportunity to kind of engage in these types of activities and would love to see them in those locations, but knows that he's growing up and he wants harder activities as he gets better and better and kind of gains more experience and a level of comfort. Some of the needs Luca identified are transportation, right? He can't get there himself. He needs to have transportation to get to some of these destinations. He wants to bike and climb, but he doesn't have the gear. He's really interested in archery, but doesn't know where he can go do that and doesn't know how, and also doesn't know how to get to the mountains. Camilla lives in Montbello. She's 33, Latinx, and she's a married mother with 4 children. She's really interested in getting into outdoor adventure activities with her children and family, especially things like camping. She wants instructors that understand her and her family since they've never done outdoor adventure activities. She'd also really like to have activities near her house because it would be easy for her children and family life. She's interested in sending her kids on things and programs without her, as long as she feels safe and comfortable with the instructors, and would also like all materials to be bilingual. Some of the needs she expressed are gear, a very common theme we heard. Doesn't know where activities are or how they're offered. Her busy family life can make it really hard for some of these activities and figuring out how to get engaged. And also doesn't know much about the mountain parks and doesn't know how to get prepared or to, really what to do. Also doesn't know how to ask questions. So some needs that she has to really get engaged. We could take Joseph, who lives in the Baker neighborhood. He is 43 and he's white and he's married with 2 children, but 1 child has physical disabilities. He expressed desires to get into outdoor adventure activities, but he has, a child with a different abilities and needs to have some accommodations and supports for that child to get outdoor and do some of this. Really wants staff that is well trained for his child's special needs. Needs restrooms for his family. And is also interested in potentially an affinity group for the child so that the child can do outdoor adventure activities within a group and without the parents around. But some of the needs are doesn't know how to find out about some of these activities, doesn't know how to get started, needing the adaptive equipment for the child, and just really that balance of kind of everyday life and making time for this. Again, having some of these in neighborhood parks or nearby would be helpful. And our last person here, Ruth, who lives in Globeville, Elyria, Swansea. She's 62 and she's African American, she's a widow, lives with her son, daughter-in-law, and their children. She is really interested in trying outdoor adventure activities, especially low impact ones, but potentially also with her grandchildren. Would love to have a group of seniors, but also instructors that really understand her and her abilities at her age and makes her feel welcome. She needs gear and someone to teach her how to do these activities. Would love them near her house so it can be part of her everyday life. She expressed needs around not knowing how to find out about the activities, how to get started, the cost of the gear, doesn't want to purchase it if she doesn't know whether she would like it, concerned about her aging body and making sure that they're activities at varying abilities, and just is generally a little bit nervous and doesn't know quite what to expect. So these are all things that we have heard time and time again through the process. The TAC was wonderful in really providing some insight into that through our public outreach, through our meetings and all the other small groups we heard, and the surveys in particular, just a lot of information on this that really grounded many of our recommendations and strategies really around what we are calling kind of this person scale that is about making people feel safe, comfortable, and confident in engaging in outdoor adventure activities. And so that's one really important piece of this plan that I'll talk through as I go through the recommendations. The next scale is really this neighborhood scale strategies. And this is about, making it accessible, within the neighborhood, making sure we have outdoor adventure activities within our neighborhood parks that are really easily accessible and part of everyday life. And so there's a lot of strategies and recommendations kind of around that as well. And certainly, the largest scale we think about is kind of full city scale and mountain park scale. And there are a number of strategies around that we'll talk about, in particular, some of the signature projects that really are these, bigger ideas around hubs and others that become destinations and more iconic elements within the city. But as we look at all these together, this plan is very, has a variety of strategies at a variety of scales, and just a really important element of this plan and how we start to shape it, kind of the richness of what we've done to get people outdoors, in their neighborhoods and then beyond into the city and mountain park scale. And as we think about this plan framework, it's really based on the community needs and equity. It's so important to get, to focus on that equity component. That built up to the 4 focus areas that I talked about. And within that, we have person scale strategies, neighborhood, city, and mountain park, all collectively, all these pieces collectively kind of getting people access to the outdoors. And so just a little thing to note that I'll remind you of later, these 3 little yellow icons kind of on the edge of the triangle there are reflective of strategies at various scales. So we have that person icon on the bottom. Those are person scale strategies, neighborhood scale strategies for the little house icon, and then you can see kind of city and mountain park scale strategies. And so as I go through them, we're thinking about these to make sure that we are hitting strategies at all these scales to make sure people are feeling comfortable and getting outdoors. So I'm going to start with going through the outdoor adventure priorities for the neighborhood parks. We asked through this process, what type of outdoor adventure activities everyone wants to be involved in, and what are the desires. And so when we look at land activities, and these are things that, so they're not water or snow or ice, it's kind of everything else that's on the land. We asked, we had about 10 or so options, and within these kind of general geographic areas of the city, you can see the top 5 elements within those areas. And they are kind of listed in order of how we received them, or the priorities. What's interesting here is that when we looked at all the aggregated data, these 5 top priorities were the same in each area of Denver. So archery, biking, challenge courses, rock climbing, and zip line, that was consistent across the entire city. Slightly, some neighborhoods wanted rock climbing more so than others. Some wanted zip line as a top priority in the far northeast, but it was consistent overall. But we did kind of break down the data because we really wanted to understand it more and do a deeper dive into all the neighborhoods and into the some different segments of the data. And so this one is just looking at the race and ethnicity data and understanding the top 3 kind of in each of these groupings here. And you can see some key differences. What really jumped out to us as the top is obviously ziplining, between the Black and Hispanic or Latino groups. That was number 1, right? That came to the top. Rock climbing for white came to the top, and you can see how archery, interestingly, was really ranked really high for many of these groups as well. We also looked at income and to try to get a better understanding. And so a few things that really jumped out to us here again were ziplining and archery. And so you could see in the lower income brackets, obviously the lowest 2, ziplining was at the very top, so the very top priority, and now archery was, in the top 3 for, really the lower kind of for just under 100,000 annual income as well. But biking landed in the higher income brackets, but the common thread through really everything was this idea around rock climbing. Challenge courses also were pretty kind of equally distributed, I think, across many different segments as well. And just kind of the last way we looked at this data, or that I'll share with you tonight, because we have a lot of data, is that just looking at youth and adults and the differences there. So rock climbing in both, but again, ziplining and archery came to the top for youth. So this was really interesting in kind of how we understand the different priorities. And as we move forward and how we'll start to use this data is, I'll talk through an idea and a recommendation we have later about, getting outdoor adventure into our neighborhood parks. And this data will be used as kind of a basis for that. So when there are improvements to parks or a master plan that will be, happening for certain parks in the future, the goal would be to incorporate outdoor adventure activities and use some of this baseline data that we collected in this process to start to inform and further the conversation at that point in time. So moving on to the hub concept. We talked a little bit about this last time, but want to just explain a little bit about what we believe are the characteristics of a hub. So when we say a hub, what is it? It is a dynamic place that supports one or more outdoor adventure activities. It is easily accessible and near transit to the greatest extent possible. And it has a variety of supports that could include equipment and gear, infrastructure, staff instruction, programming, and partnerships. And the idea around these hubs are that we can have urban hubs, mountain hubs as well. So just to share an example, existing hub that we have, and the best example is Ruby Hill. So when we look at the characteristics of Ruby Hill, it supports one or more activities: skiing, snowboarding, biking. The hope is that it's accessible and near transit. It is accessible by bus, and the South Platte River Trail is nearby. From equipment standpoint, it has free rental gear at the rail yard. From an infrastructure standpoint, there's obviously existing infrastructure today, and then we have, I'll get more into this kind of 5-year plan action, but this is an action item coming out of this plan to put in a rope tow or a magic carpet addition to the rail yard. Also a future addition of a classroom. There's staff instruction through volunteers at the rail yard, and partnerships with Winter Park. So while we don't expect that every hub, has every single one of these elements, the idea is that they really check many of these boxes, as many as possible, to make them a key destination hub, outdoor adventure destination in Denver. And so when we think about what we have today, we have noted these 4 existing hubs: Berkeley, Lake Park, Sloan's Lake, Garfield, and Ruby Hill. And while, I went through the example of Ruby Hill, and it's certainly the best example we have, the idea is that the other 3, Berkeley, Sloan's, and Garfield, will continue to be improved with more support, infrastructure, and programming and other characteristics to really round out the hub in the future. But what we did is we started with these hubs, and we looked at kind of what is that 10-minute walk around these hubs, right? When we think about parks, 10-minute walk is, a common metric we think of. But in thinking about hubs, that's probably not quite right? It doesn't get a lot of coverage, and we need to certainly kind of capture a larger area in Denver as we think about these being major destinations. So we looked at a 10-minute drive and a 20-minute bike ride and felt like, while these existing hubs cover West Denver really well, we know East, far Northeast, Southeast, Central has some really big gaps, and that there are no hubs in those locations. We feel that kind of these metrics of a 10-minute drive or 20-minute bike ride would be great to accomplish across the entire city. And so 4 to 5 additional hubs within Denver would fill that gap and kind of cover Denver with a hub system over time. So again, long-term plan, but having 8 to 9 hubs in Denver overall is the goal. And so getting into our signature projects. some really exciting ideas here. And this first one is this idea around a BMX hub. This is also identified as a 5-year plan action. So we have been working through out of the recommendations, what are those top priorities to start work on within 5 years. And so you will see that note on a number of these slides that I'll call out. This BMX hub is one of them. When we say 5-year plan action, it means that work has started. It doesn't necessarily mean that work is complete, right? Because these projects are big and sometimes they do take some time, but that, you know, planning, design, all those elements would, or some of those elements or more would happen within kind of this 5-year time frame. So for this BMX hub, definitely kind of a city and mountain park scale strategy here. This hub would provide both regional access, potentially even national interest, and also neighborhood scale access. We're looking at east or far northeast Denver for this hub. It's lacking access to hubs, as you all just saw. And biking activities were the second most popular choice in the east area, based on that data you saw several slides ago. Some key attributes to a BMX hub like this is that it could have instruction to support progressive levels of programming, access to gear rentals for participants so more people can engage, potential to even implement a formal race facility to host events. And it also has an opportunity to have other outdoor adventure activities paired with it, depending on the site, and also depending on you know, public desires and kind of community input as that process is started. So as I said before, we want to have, you know, one or more activities, and certainly there's more opportunity to have an opportunity to have another activity here, depending on the site and what's of interest from the community for that project. The second one, another 5-year plan action, is a skate hub. And Daryl had mentioned how Southeast Denver is, you know, really wants a skate hub, which we've heard loud and clear. So we're identifying the Southeast for this, providing neighborhood and regional scale access. A lot of public support, as we've talked about, again, providing progressive levels of programming, opportunity, again, for other activities paired with skate, depending on the site and public desires and community input, and also potential to be co-located with other DPR facilities within the area. So another exciting hub and signature project. Moving up to the mountain parks for this one. So obviously a big kind of city and mountain park scale 5-year plan action is the Echo Lake Activity Center. So this is envisioned as an all-season hub destination. It is a beautiful site if you haven't been up there, and really allows for or has the opportunity for winter sports, snow sports, potentially things like even a rope tow, and, you know, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. Some of that happens today, and other things for the warmer months, hiking and walking paths, potentially things like a zip line, water sports. It really hits on snow and ice activities, land activities, as well as water. So really an exciting opportunity for a hub within the mountain parks. The next one is a Denver Outdoor Center. This one is intended to be a centrally located outdoor center with a focus on urban rock climbing and challenge adventure. So thinking about this probably more in the East Central zone, you saw the desires for rock climbing and how that was a really strong interest for, and actually the top interest for the hub facilities. Challenge courses also were a big public priority. And so this one is intended to be more of an indoor-outdoor facility with programming and training within it, having rock climbing progression, and having those challenge adventures with it. Think about things like aerial adventure, rappelling, adventure climbing, potentially even zip line, really dependent on the exact site, but some ideas that are within the signature project. Gear would be included, and also being a centralized location for outdoor adventure operations. Could also serve as kind of a primary transportation hub for much of the outdoor adventure programming. So, things that leave the programs, they even go to the mountain parks or other areas, the transportation could leave from here. The next one is a South Platte River Hub. This is envisioned as a series of adventure opportunities located along the South Platte River, kind of a necklace of connections. There's so many great parks and public spaces right around the river today and planned for the future. This is important, but also really must be first and foremost aligned with the resiliency priorities to improve water quality, right? We know that's kind of a #1 priority for the water. And once that happens, we can, really start to recreate more within it. Provides the opportunity to connect many of these parts and amenities, and provide opportunity for river play with SUPs, which are stand-up paddle boards. River surfing is gaining popularity. And some key attributes and things we think about with this are just enhancing access overall, but things like self-service kiosks for kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, and dedicated put-in locations, right? So imagine being able to go up to kind of a self-serve kiosk and rent a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard and, recreate on the South Platte and then put it back in there when you're finished using, a mobile app or some other something like that. Also having instruction and programming within this kind of larger South Platte River Hub as well. And the last signature project, being a big one, big idea here of an aerial tram to Lookout Mountain. And so this is definitely a longer term signature project, but a really exciting one that could connect people from Golden to the top of Lookout Mountain, really becoming kind of a regional attraction, and a way to get up there. So take your bike up the tram and go on bike paths at the top of Lookout or bike down Lookout. It could also get people up there that might not be able to do as much physical activity or recreate, but provide that access to the mountain parks. And it really is an iconic element that doesn't exist today, but the picture on the bottom right, you can see what it actually was. This was I think it was about 1912 when this opened. It was went up Lookout Mountain, and then it closed down a number of years later. So a really exciting idea there. So want to pause here for a second and ask you all a question about which of these signature projects excites you most. We're still working through some of the prioritization and refinement of these, but of these 6, which really excites you the most, or maybe it's all of them. I think Laura launched the poll, so feel free to check it. But so the first one is the Bmx Hub. The second, Skate Hub. The third is the Echo Lake Activity Center. The fourth is the Denver Outdoor Center. 5, the South Platte River Hub. 6, aerial tram to Lookout Mountain. And 7 is all of the above.
Okay, we had a few more add, so I'm going to give it about 15 more seconds.
All right, Laura, should we close it?
It looks pretty close, so I'm going to end the poll. And here are the results.
Okay, spread across the board. So Denver Outdoor Center and the climbing and challenge adventure, 22% of you all said that, but really we have interest in all of them and some for all of the above. So that's great. These are all projects that have really come out of and ideas that really come out of the input that you all have provided in the process. So it's actually great to see kind of the split across the board. All right, let's move to some of the additional priorities. And these are some select additional priorities. Again, we are not sharing every little thing within the plan tonight because it's entirely too much information, but some really exciting ones that we think will be of interest to you all tonight, and want to share where we are. So the first one is, important to note, and I mentioned it with the South Platte River Hub, but it's really around water quality improvement efforts, and important to kind of acknowledge that this is a 5-year plan action, absolutely, and it's also aligned with other agency priorities. But this is true for not only the South Platte River, but lakes in Denver and all water bodies. By improving water quality, we have a greater ability to recreate in and on the water. We have heard loud and clear that water is such a priority for people to get access to here in Denver. And so by improving the water quality, we will have more access, throughout the year and summer for sure. So some key projects here that this plan absolutely supports is not only water quality improvements throughout Denver, but the idea of dredging Sloan's Lake to improve water quality and improve the ability to kind of recreate with water sports there. And also things like shoreline restorations. So making it more, making our lakes more accessible as well. So an important thing to note as we're thinking about priorities for this plan, but getting into some other ideas here. The first one being archery. We heard and you saw that there is a lot of interest in archery. There is one archery range at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, but this plan will be looking into other location within Denver for archery because there's so much interest. On the right there, this idea of the recreation rover. This is a strategy, a neighborhood scale strategy that is a 5-year plan action item. The picture here is the Curiosity Cruiser from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. And so that's a great example as we think about what the recreation rover could be. Really a mobile activity center to provide equitable access to mobile programming, right? So the recreation rover can go to neighborhoods, provide programming, provide gear, potentially information, and educate users on outdoor adventure activities. Ziplining was another big priority that you saw. And so we talked about that incorporated potentially into a couple hubs, but also an opportunity to incorporate potentially entry-level features in some other locations. So as projects move forward, whether it's neighborhood parks or in other locations, definitely an understanding of the desires around Zipline to see where we can incorporate some more of these features. Tree climbing and slacklining is a strategy and a 5-year plan action that really kind of hits at that city and mountain park scale to evaluate DPR's tree climbing and slacklining policy so that can happen within more parks. So again, the recommendation here is really to kind of evaluate that to see what can be done. Fishing, this is a priority. It also hits on really giving access to people of all ages and abilities into water, just more access to water. So we have it in 7 urban parks and 6 mountain parks, but things like improved signage and really an understanding of where you can go and fish will be kind of part of that recommendation to make sure it's more accessible. Docking systems is a priority. And this is, again, another 5-year plan action. The docking systems in this image here is at Evergreen Lake. They allow easier entry and ADA accessibility for non-motorized boating. So making it much easier to engage in some of these water activities. And the 5-year plan action is really to install these entry points at Sloan's, Garfield, Washington, Wash Park, Parkfield, Berkeley, and potentially even Echo Lake. So really targeting some key locations for installation of those docking systems. Snow and ice, another 5-year plan action, just the evaluation of DPR's snow and ice activity policy within Denver urban parks and golf courses, as well as at Evergreen Lake Golf Course. So That's a priority that hits at kind of that neighborhood scale as well as that mountain park scale. Disc golf, that didn't come as kind of the top 5 of some of those newer outdoor adventure opportunities, but we did hear a lot about disc golf and the desire for disc golf within the city. There's a lot of land needed for disc golf courses. And while we have 2 existing and 2 proposed, we're looking at an opportunity for a mountain park location as well, and really thinking about kind of equitable distribution across the city. Gear libraries came up time and time again because, purchasing gear is expensive and a barrier for many. So some 5-year plan actions are not only launching 1 new gear library, but partnering with Colorado-based outdoor brands to stock gear libraries with adaptive gear as well. So this really, provides better access within neighborhoods and also the city overall. Another priority is creative camping. And this is a 5-year plan action as well to incorporate some what we're calling curated camping opportunities. So think about tree houses, yurts, teepees, things like that into at least one mountain park location, and evaluating the potential for permitted overnight backpacking within mountain parks. So really trying to make it easy for people and families to get into the mountain parks and have camping experiences. And maybe they get their gear at the gear library before they go. So getting down more to kind of the person scale and some of the communication elements as well. On the left here, we have this idea really about kind of enhanced communication from a citywide perspective. And some of those 5-year plan actions are to add passive use outdoor activities into the urban and mountain parks activity guide. So that may be things like, sharing some hike locations and maybe the length and time you need and things like that. And also launching adventure campaigns in the inverted L communities. And this is just to bring kind of awareness to what you can do in the mountain parks, making people feel more comfortable to go up there and have a plan for what they're doing. On the right, we have more kind of individual scale communication efforts and strategies. And again, this is very much person scale, making people feel safe and comfortable and confident to get in the outdoors. And that is to provide pre-adventure and pre-gear checkout workshops and resources to enhance safety and just an understanding of, what do you do in the outdoors? How do you use the gear? Also standardizing information around activities to include experience level, cost, equipment needed, time it may take, and so forth. And this is really important. As we heard, people don't know, if you read about a hike, you don't know maybe what you should bring and how much experience you need, what equipment you may need. And this allows people to start feeling really comfortable and engaging in these activities because they have, they know what to bring, and also almost like kind of a checklist as you get into outdoor adventure. Just a final few here, entry-level features on the left, hitting the neighborhood scale strategies in a 5-year plan. I mentioned this before, but this is identifying upcoming playground or park master plan design processes to include entry-level outdoor features. And so, again, when our master plan starts, it would be incorporating the ideas around outdoor adventure features within that park in the future and having that be part of the conversation as well with the community. And family programming, again, hitting at this person scale strategy, a 5-year plan action to create pilot programs for families and intergenerational programming for some of the most popular outdoor recreation programs. So with that, we have a few more questions before we open it up for Q&A. And so this one is, which additional priorities excite you the most? The first is archery. Second is zipline. The third is tree climbing and slacklining. 4 is fishing. 5 is disc golf. 6 is creative camping in the mountain parks, and 7, all of the above. So the poll should be open.
All right, we're about halfway there. Give it a little bit longer. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna close the poll. And here are the results.
Oh, great. Okay. So creative camping jumped to the top for you all. I love that too. I mean, who wouldn't want to go camp in a tree house or a teepee or something like that? I sure would. Tree climbing, slack climbing, fishing, all of the above. No ziplining, but we know that also maybe came from more youth. So that's great. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And then we do have one more question before I open it up for Q&A. We would love to know what will be most helpful in getting you to try new outdoor adventure activities. And so this is kind of more around the some programming, but kind of communication, education as well. So the first is the Recreation Rover. So again, that's the mobile unit that would go around the neighborhood, loan gear, educate users and things like that. The second is Outdoor Adventure in My Neighborhood Park, right? So making it part of everyday life and easily accessible. 3 is programming that you can do with your family. So that, multi-generational programming. 4 is accessing gear through a gear library. 5 is knowing more about activities offered. And 6 is all of the above.
Okay, we are about half responded, so just a little longer.
And if you have other ideas as well, you can throw them into chat. I neglected to mention that earlier, but I think there's been some activity, so.
Well, if you've got a response, put it in now. It's slowed down, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And share the results.
Great, all the above. That's what we like to hear. But no, a little bit of everything. So outdoor adventure in your neighborhood parks, knowing more about activities offered. But most of you, or 36% said all the above. Great. Well, thank you for that feedback and listening to me go through all of that. I am going to stop sharing and turn it over to Molly, who is going to kind of go through Q&A.
Yeah, so I'm happy to go through Q&A. Please go ahead, and if you have a question for us, feel free to chat at us, do the Q&A, or raise your hand. Flora, I wanted to kind of call you out because you did have your hand raised, and I just wanted to be sure that we had a chance to answer your question. It was a little bit ago, a few minutes ago. So if you want to take yourself off mute and ask the question, I think you can.
And Molly, can you repeat the name again?
It was Flora Montez who had her hand up.
Okay,
see it
Flora, I'm going to allow you to talk, but feel free to let us know if you're okay.
She's not with us.
She is, but it is not letting me allow her to talk.
Oh.
I'll try again in a little bit, Flora, if you want to put it in the chat if you're interested.
So with that, while you guys either comments, questions, anything you'd like, we'd love to hear it. But Conrad, I know had to drop. Oh, he's still here. Hi, Conrad. So you said had a question early on. We can tell you're a big high level paddler. So thank you. Oh, you're gonna go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. So my question was, I really want to be, first of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. All right, great. My question was more about getting it really involved in helping create take a role as a community member in the more specific planning process for, in my case, the whitewater kayaking and especially the South Platte revitalization, to ensure that Denver offers opportunities not just for families and for people to get into the sport safely, which is awesome and super important, but also to progress and grow into the sport and achieve at a higher level, kind of like we saw the feedback from Luca. And that comes from having the ability to participate at a higher level and have those features that exist, whether it is a pump track for biking or it is like a pretty big ender hole at a whitewater park with a large feature, because you're going to draw a larger community and there's going to be more options for mentorship and greater participation, which is good for everyone involved, whether you are the person who's just putting on a life jacket or learning to ride a bike, or you're the person throwing a backflip. So that's my question is, how can I get involved with the planning so that there are higher level features in the parks and in the plans that you're gonna have for these hubs and the revitalization products?
Thanks, Conrad. That's a great question. Stacy, do you want to tag team with me that one a little bit? Just because Stacy also wears many hats, but one of her hats is she does our long-term development or large development review. And so she is more keyed in than I am about some of the things going on the Platte within our department. But I can say we do have some, I think in the next 20 years, it will take some time to make the Platte where we want to in terms of water levels, not having E. coli and things like that, and just having healthy water. So that is our number one priority before we recreate, just to be sure that it's a level that we want it to be at. Having said that, we know people recreate there now, but we are really excited. I think River Mile is gonna add some really exciting things. And Stacy, do you want to chime in here and talk about it?
Yeah, as Molly mentioned, there's a big development that has been in the planning process for a number of years now that will introduce more elements into the South Platte River as part of their work. The great thing about it is that also includes some needed work on the banks of the river, and I think you'll see more of that. Just generally as a city, we're trying to kind of fix some ills that wasn't just Denver, but kind of a general theme across the country where people put a lot of industrial things on rivers and closed off access. You're seeing now a lot more people realizing the great benefit of being on and near water. And so as those developments come into play, that's usually a signature element of the types of things they're trying to do, is some sort of recreational activity. But as Molly mentioned, you know, part of this is that we're also subject to making sure that there's really good water quality to the extent that we can. And we know that we don't fully control everything that's going into the South Platte River. So it's a pretty big effort with our neighboring jurisdictions. And Conrad, as I'm sure you've experienced, this summer has been really crazy in the sense that we're getting a lot of rain, and last summer we didn't. So I think some of our ability is a little tougher than just providing something that we can always build and ensure is operable. But we heard loud and clear, there is so much interest in recreating on the water, and we're going to do the best we can to provide those amenities.
And so I do want to talk about your point, Conrad, about like how you can get involved. I don't think we addressed that yet. And it's important that that is what we're advocating for, that this plan is kind of, we hope, is a living, breathing document, and that there will be plenty of opportunity going forward to get involved. Water activities are a little bit different just because we're limited. We can't put water features in every neighborhood park, right? We're limited into where there's lakes and the Platte and things like that. So I would encourage you to keep your ear to the ground on that River Mile, what's going on there and how they're doing their public engagements. But then for a lot of the other outdoor adventure activities that we talked about, we will be kind of trying to incorporate these into neighborhood parks and local opportunities. And so we hope that you will kind of be keyed in into your own neighborhoods about when there's a master plan opportunity and go. And we heard a lot of people on the call today, I think, chimed in about being really excited about skate parks. And so that would be an opportunity, is when there is a new master plan, that you could chime in and advocate for whatever feature you're passionate about. But that's kind of what we do, is try and get that community input. Stacey, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because I know Jen had asked a question about like the material of pump tracks, and the kind of fortunate and unfortunate thing is about a master plan is we provide a lot of things to get excited about, but we don't quite get into the level of detail yet. So I think that's kind of a cool thing, and I know Molly will talk about next steps at the end of our call, but what you'll see when this document is put out and published on our website is that it's got those really high level things, but that also gives us a chance to be more flexible as we work on delivering these. So it's not so prescriptive that we're only limited to a particular material choice or site location, but that we can really partner with some of those developers that are doing cool things along the river to influence what they're doing. Or if someone comes up with some really cool surface for a pump track or skate park that we don't even know about yet, it gives us the flexibility to try new things and hopefully be a little more progressive in the way we design things.
Thanks. Are there any other questions or comments? Feel free. I'll give everyone a moment. Don't all jump at once. You're also welcome to chat for those, or put things into the chat box for those that don't want to be called out. Is there anything you think we're missing, I guess, from this, or yeah, things you wanted to see or expected to see that you're surprised we didn't talk about tonight?
I will say, when we were trying to catch Flora, she had put in the Q&A that it's a great idea to get to the mountains and snow. I'm not sure which exactly, but generally getting people up to the mountains and snow is something that I think she was appreciative of.
Cool.
We have one more hand.
Oh, great.
Craig, I will allow you to talk. Hold on, here we go.
Hi guys, no question. I just wanted to pass on gratitude for your efforts here. This is one of the, well, probably the first city council meeting that I've attended, and yeah, phenomenal stuff in the works. Seems really well organized and really very thoughtful about ways to benefit our community. So wanted to pass along gratitude and thank you.
Thanks, Craig. And I did have a chance to read. Mary, thank you for your comments here about offer, that we know language is sometimes a barrier, among other things, to some of the programs we offer. And so that is why some of what we're focused on in this plan is the communications education piece of this. I don't know, Leslie, if you want to take her comment and kind of expand on some of the things we're doing in that world, Leslie or Meredith, not to call you guys out, but feel free to talk about that.
No, thanks, Molly. I think, Mary, it's a great point, and we've got communications planning written into this plan, not the specifics of all the tactics that we'll take to really make sure that those folks that need the most support and have opportunities to learn about the programs and entries and pathways to the various different experiences and the progressive programs. And so I think you're dead on when you say bilingual staff, folks that are directly connected to the communities and the neighborhoods, have deep relationships with people within the neighborhoods, is the best thing that we can do across the board. And so your idea is being heard, and it's a great, consideration that we've got to continue to progress on, and we've got to continue to build. But it's baked into this plan, and we agree.
Yeah, and I just add a few things to tag on to what Leslie said is that, yeah, there's some very clear ideas, and we heard loud and clear about kind of communication, targeted communication to the inverted L communities, and working with community connectors and people that are deeply embedded and already doing the work in the communities and using them as a conduit to help. And so there are some strategies, while the specific tactics aren't there within the plan, the bigger strategy, because we know that's such an effective way to work within some of these communities, especially when language is a barrier. So thank you.
Anything else? I always feel like in these meetings being like, Bueller?
Oh, it looks like Flora said her phone keeps getting disconnected, and her comment is, we live very close to the mountains, but yet so far as participating in programs such as skiing and snowboarding, I hope we get those programs for youth.
Yeah, I was just going to add, yeah, absolutely. While we didn't go through them in the presentation, the idea around Echo Lake and even potentially a rope tow and things like that to really provide access more closely, maybe opportunities for some partnerships within some mountain park areas. And then obviously, you all are probably familiar with the Winter Park partnership, that as well. So definitely, the access to skiing and snowboarding, and the transportation's a barrier, but the equipment and just access in general. So we do have some more specifics in the plan. So, please get on and read all these details, but just wanted to kind of note that. So thank you for sharing.
I think with that, we can talk about next steps. And if, there's still opportunity, if things come to mind, please raise your hand or go ahead and put in the chat, because we do have some extra time that I'm happy to move on to and not have to call Bueller a million times. So the next steps, we've already alluded to a lot of this, but the plan will be on our websites. And we will have this recording as well on our website. So if you know people that are interested in the content that's been presented tonight, which we hope that's a lot of people, go ahead and forward it on and let people know. And so this is kind of what we had envisioned at the beginning of when we started this journey of the Outdoor Adventure and Alternative Sports Master Plan, of what the timeline is. You can see that we are right there towards the end in August, hard to believe, and that we will kind of wrap up our final plan now that this is kind of our final touch point with you. But as I mentioned, it doesn't stop here. It's an ambitious plan. It's a 20-year plan. There's a lot that we want to implement in the near term, midterm, long term, and we need your help doing that. And want to hear, as we've said, I think a theme that has come up is this isn't all baked, that it is, we've laid the groundwork, but that we need a lot more details and a lot more input. And so this is just the start. We have put both Stacy and I's contact on here. While there's a lot of us on the panel tonight, feel free to reach out to either of us and we can connect you to the right person. I know Laura also put her contact information in the chat. That the denvergov.org/park projects is where you can find kind of the recording of this, and then eventually the final documents. We're excited to say that we're already doing some of this. Some things are already being implemented. Stacy mentioned that in Montbello, we have a pump track that is actually going to open here very shortly, and hopefully be ready for use by September. And so please go check it out. That's something that's already come out of our kind of advocacy for some of these bike amenities, as well as the Bear Creek Master Plan. People have been advocating for a bike skills course and some fishing there, and even possibly some tubing. So all of that this master plan has been a great start to some of these conversations, and we know that a lot of things will happen in the near term, midterm, and long term. So we're really excited about it. And thank you for all of you that have helped out with this plan, that have tuned in for the 3 meetings, and to anyone that's joining in tonight for the first time, thank you. Thank you for caring about it and hearing about it, and we hope that you'll stay connected to us. With that, is there anything else from the team or the attendees that has come up? Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. And thanks to our interpreter, Liz, tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. I speak fast, Liz, so I hope it wasn't too much of a challenge.
Thanks all. Have a good night. Thanks.